discussing a pretty contentious installment in the Godzilla franchise. One that is either loved or hated. Today I will be discussing 1994's Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. Yes, indeed. And joining me today is fellow kaiju YouTuber JT is well, not really kaiju YouTuber, but he's just a YouTuber, but he likes kaiju movies. JT is reborn, aka Sean. Make your debut, Shawnee boy.
All right, thank you so much, Nick. I'm sorry I couldn't be in the Godzilla vs. Godzilla 2-1 after that internet and technical difficulties fucked everything over, but I'm back now, and I've got some time, good internet, good
Hi,
signal.
Boss Gamer.
Hi, Boss Gamer. I don't know who you are, but hi. Yeah, let's talk about Godzilla versus Space Godzilla.
Yes, indeed. Let's talk about Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. Okay, so Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, as I said a couple minutes ago, this is a very contentious installment in the Godzilla franchise. There are those who like this movie and say that it's an underrated gem, and they say it's even one of their favorite Godzilla movies. Then at this movie and say it's one of the worst Godzilla movies in the entire franchise. And I kind of fall in the former category. I do think that this is a pretty decent movie. I do agree it does have its flaws. I will give you guys that. It has its flaws, but overall, I don't think this is one of the worst Godzilla movies ever made. I don't think this is one of the worst Godzilla movies ever made. I will say that it's probably one of the more weak entries in the series, but I still thoroughly enjoy this movie because I have a shit ton of nostalgia for this film. That's really the biggest reason why I enjoy this movie as much as I do, is because I have very, very fond memories of watching this movie as a child. Yes, it has, Boss Gamer, since you've joined a stream of mine. But I remember seeing this movie when I was very young on AMC. There was a double bill with Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla and Godzilla vs. Destroya. And I remember really liking Space Godzilla. Destroya I really didn't care for when I was young. Still don't care for it now that I'm an adult. But I remember really liking Space Godzilla because I thought the idea of an alien space version of Godzilla was an awesome idea. I still do. I remember enjoying Space Godzilla, and then the movie kind of escaped me for a little while. But then, actually not a little while, a long while. But then my mom had subscribed to Netflix, and I asked her, "Can you rent Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla?" And she got the TriStar double feature with Space Godzilla and Destroya, which I myself do also own. It's one of the oldest Godzilla DVDs that I still have. And I rewatched the movie, and I loved the shit out of it. It's always nice to revisit a movie that you remember seeing from your childhood, and then seeing it as an older child. It's always really nice to experience something like that. So I remember loving the shit out of the movie. Then I watched Godzilla vs. Destroya. I didn't care for it. I really did not care for it, but that's for another review. So then I got the movie, and I bought the film, or my mom bought the film for me to keep for Christmas. And I rewatched the movie many times. Then I let it sit for a while. And as I grew up and I started watching more Godzilla reviews, I started to notice the kind of split fan base that there is for this movie. There are those who love it and there are those who hate it. And I still always remained in the love it category. Though I do, as time went on, as I studied more reviews, I did come to realize that this movie is pretty flawed. And objectively, I definitely will say this movie is a mixed bag. It's got some good things going for it, but it's also got some bad things going for it. One of which being a double-edged sword. But Sean, what's your history with this movie?
Okay, so I grew up on lots of Godzilla movies. I had the VHS tapes like crazy. I had T-shirts. I had toys. I just fucking loved Godzilla. I was in the store one day. I saw the VHS there. I begged my mom to buy it, so she bought it for me because I was like, huh, Godzilla. Because I was used to watching the Showa series. The only other Heisei film I had seen was Godzilla 1985. It was a part of like this 5-tape collection. And so I'm like, ooh, another Godzilla movie. And I was like, oh, this is kind of like a more modernized Godzilla movie. So I bought it. I went home, bought it, and I really liked this one when I was younger. And I didn't realize until I started doing my Godzilla 2014 review that this movie had kind of a mixed reaction. And I can see a lot of reasons why some of it is mixed, but Spacegodzilla is my favorite Godzilla villain. So, I mean, I still like the movie. I rewatched it for this video, and it definitely has some issues. Some of the human element, like there's like a whole portion. Like,
let's save
really,
that for later.
Okay, but yeah, like my memories come basically. I picked up the VHS, watched it a lot of times, and then this was like my real first. I mean, 1985 was my first introduction to the Heisei series, but this was like, you know, the second one I saw in terms of the Heisei, and then I started watching that series, you know, afterwards, because I've been used to watching the Showa series, and then I switched to Heisei, and then obviously Millennium came after that, and yeah, I like this one a lot. It definitely, I see the faults in it, but there is some good stuff in here, so we'll go ahead and get to it soon, because I know you got to go your breakdown of the plot and stuff. So.
Yeah, and this plot isn't going to be very deep because this movie's plot in general isn't very deep. It's really not. It's of the entire Heisei series, this movie definitely has the simplest plot. It's got some competition with Mothra 92, but I definitely can say legitimately that this movie has the most simple plot of the Heisei series. Leading me to kind of feel like at times this is like an extended TV episode.
Yeah, the thing with simple plots too is like not everything has to be overly complicated.
That is true too. Yes, that's kind of one issue that I have with a lot of moviegoers nowadays is that they're so fucking high maintenance with, you know, every movie plot has to be this really deep, it has to be really thought provoking. It's got to have some bullshit social commentary, and it's got to be really complex. This is why I like Justice League, is because the plot is simple.
It's very, very simple.
Yes. And this movie has a very simple plot, which I do like. Not to say that it's an amazingly simple plot, because it even then, coming off of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, which that movie sort of has a simple plot, but there's still a lot going on. Here, there's not really a lot going on. So while I do like the simplicity of this movie's plot, I do think it could have been executed just a tad bit better. But anyway, so the plot of this movie is Godzilla cells that were brought into space by both Biollante and Mothra are exposed to intense radiation from a black hole. Do black holes give off radiation? I don't think so. Well, whatever. Resulting in the birth of Spacegodzilla, whom quickly makes its way to Earth, destroying a NASA space station along the way there. Meanwhile, members of the UNGCC, the United Nations Godzilla Countermeasures Center, God, that rolls off your tongue worse than SHIELD.
Strategic Homeland Intervention Enforcement Logistics Division. See, I can't even speak it.
Ugh.
So
they arrive at Birth Island. See, these two are Lieutenant Kiyoshi Sato and Major Akira Yuki.
No, Yuki was the guy that was on.
Oh wait, no, excuse me, Koji Shinjo and Kiyoshi Sato. God, these two.
What are we doing here?
Don't even get me started. So meanwhile, these two, they show up at Birth Island to find Akira Yuki, Major Akira Yuki, played by Akira Imoto. who actually is probably the only character in this movie that I do like.
He's the best character in the movie. He has an interesting storyline.
And they arrive along to assist Yuki, or not? No, they don't assist Yuki. They find Yuki, but they also just are there to do some shit or other. Oh wait, no. In order to plant a mind control device on Godzilla in an effort to control him as part of Project T. Yes. In the cosmos, Mothra's twin priestesses appear to psychic Miki Sagusa to warn her of Space Godzilla's arrival.
Your favorite character, Miki Sagusa.
Oh my god.
Hey, I actually met Megumi Odaka at G-Fest. She was very nice.
That's all well and good. Hang on. I'll save that for later. And so the JSDF has then built a new mecha from the parts of Mechagodzilla called Mogera, Mobile Operations G-Force Universal Expert Robot Aero Type. Oh, that rolls off your tongue worse than SHIELD and UNGCC. So Mogera is completed and is sent out into space to intercept Godzilla, or not Godzilla, Space Godzilla, and is miserably ripped to shreds in the process and suffers massive damage. So Space Godzilla, oh wait, no. After Godzilla shows up at Birth Island, seemingly for, at first, no reason at all, Project T is attempted to be executed when Miki Sagusa and a couple other of her colleagues show up there. The mind-control device is implanted on Godzilla. However, Godzilla's own psionic abilities overpower Mickey's, and Project T fails. So he starts to head in towards the island. Space Godzilla lands on Birth Island and begins to attack Little Godzilla, who's in this movie. Godzilla soon shows up, but finds himself overwhelmed by Space Godzilla's abilities and is powerless to stop his cosmic clone from trapping Little Godzilla in a crystal prison. I'm not gonna lie. You can call me a bitch if you want. When I first saw this movie, seeing Little Godzilla get imprisoned made me bawl my eyes out.
Hey, you know what? I bawled my eyes out at the end of Son of Godzilla. So
I do too. So anyway, Space Godzilla leaves for Japan with Godzilla in pursuit. Of course he would be. So shortly thereafter, the Yakuza...
Well, not helping his son, mind you, who's for some...
Well, there actually was a scene where Godzilla was trying to free Little Godzilla from that prison, but for some reason that was deleted.
Why would you delete that scene?
Don't fucking know. That pissed off Kenpachiro Satsuma, who plays Godzilla, plenty. And actually,
I didn't find out about that scene until I did my review when somebody pointed it out. Because I'm like, why the fuck doesn't Godzilla go back to help him? Someone's like, oh, there was a scene film, but since it's not in the movie, we have to rip on it.
Yep. That's another issue with this film, but whatever. So shortly thereafter, the Yakuza, Japanese mafia, abduct Miki and bring her back to their base in Fukuoka in an attempt to use her psychic abilities to once again try to gain control over Godzilla. This, of course, fails again, and Miki is saved. Yes, and Miki is saved by a rescue team consisting of the two idiots and Yuki before Space Godzilla arrives. So she pulls the ability of telekinesis right out of her ass. Space Godzilla lands in central Fukuoka and forms a massive, massive fortress of crystals at the Fukuoka Tower. Mogera arrives once again to try to fight Space Godzilla, but is still absolutely no match for it. This movie definitely does suffer for the worst from the Beam Wars trilogy, I will admit. And Godzilla arrives in Kagoshima Bay and re-enters his own fight with Godzilla. However, once again, Space Godzilla easily gains the upper hand. The JSDF discover that Space Godzilla is using Fukuoka Tower as a power converter and using it to transform Earth's core.
Did they go to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters?
Sorry,
just a Star Wars line.
using it to transform the Earth's core into an energy source that Spacegodzilla can absorb, which is slowly killing the planet, which you never see that once in the film. While Godzilla wrestles with Spacegodzilla, Mogera then splits into two different mechas, Power Rangers style. The Star Falcon, which is a flying battleship, and the Land Mogera, which is a large tank with a large drill in the front, using its two auto lasers as cannons. And the mechas damage the Crystal Fortress while Godzilla pushes over Fukuoka Tower, cutting off Spacegodzilla's energy supply. Mogera then quickly reforms to its monster mecha form and blasts off Spacegodzilla's crystal shoulder crystals, Samus style, which of course quickly damages Mogera. So Mogera is down and out for the count for good after that. However, Godzilla gets a second wind and he starts blasting the shit out of Spacegodzilla and eventually kills Spacegodzilla by using once again his supercharged red spiral atomic ray, which blew me away when I first saw this movie. I was like, yes, we get to see that again.
This is the first time I saw the red atomic ray, and I'm like, what the hell? Well, technically, if you count Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla in 1974, Mechagodzilla has kind of an orange ray, but not like a super atomic.
That was
ray.
yellow.
I saw this. Yeah, it was more, it was a different color than blue.
So anyway, after destroying Spacegodzilla, which is the only scene in the movie that I do like the music, is Spacegodzilla's death, because it also goes along with Godzilla's victory roar. Godzilla makes his way back to Birth Island after Mickey uses her psychic powers to remove the mind control device from its neck, making that entire subplot pointless.
God, that subplot just drags the movie down.
And little Godzilla is then freed from the crystal prison and begins blowing tiny radioactive bubbles, thus ending the movie.
Fucking bubbles.
So how about this plot? It's about as basic can get. It actually feels like a newer Showa film, honestly, now that I think about it. Like you took the structure of the Showa series, but then added Heisei effects. That's what this movie feels like.
Yeah, it does feel kind of like a Showa movie in that sense. You got like the...
Not to say that it's bad per se. I actually don't really mind the simple plot of this movie, but there's really just not much to say about it.
The only thing I can really nitpick, like, Space Monster shows up, Godzilla has to fight him, gets ass kicked, and then just...
regroups,
doesn't help his son for some dumb reason. If it doesn't happen in the movie, it doesn't happen at all. And then the dumb Project T plot, which goes absolutely fucking nowhere. That whole like scene where she gets kidnapped, like, why did she need to be kidnapped? Why do we need to grind this movie to a halt? Like, that's the only thing I don't like.
Yeah, it brings the pace to a screeching halt.
I mean, I'll give them props. They at least have something to do for Mickey in this movie. Because, like, I know she's, like, in, like, Biollante onward. But, like, she doesn't really have, like...
She has fuck all to do in this entire series. So, moving on. Let's get to the pros for this film, shall we? Go ahead.
Okay. Biggest pro of this movie, without a doubt, under any circumstances, Spacegodzilla. Oh, Omega, I have a soft spot for Manila, but I think Godzilla Jr. is better. But yeah, so Spacegodzilla. Spacegodzilla is my favorite Godzilla villain of all time. He looks cool, so many unique abilities, the way he flies and crystallizes, the way he draws energy. Playing as him in the video game is incredible. He looks fucking cool. The name is a bit cheesy. I'll give it that. We'll call him Spacegodzilla.
They don't even pronounce it the correct term in Japanese. In the Japanese dub, they say Spacegodzilla, whereas the actual term would be Uchu Gojira, because the Japanese word for space is Uchu. But whatever.
Gojira. Whatever. Spacegodzilla. I'm never going to change it now. It's too burned into my brain. But anyway, Godzilla is fucking awesome. I like the character of Yuki. I think he has an interesting story going on in the movie as someone who has like this vendetta against Godzilla because, you know, his friend was one of the people who died in Godzilla vs. Biollante.
It was Gondo.
Back to that movie. Which one?
It was Gondo.
Gondo, yeah. See, I don't really watch Biollante that much, so I can't remember his name. But anyways, I thought his story was interesting. He was the only thing I don't like is you see his ass in the movie. I don't think that was necessary at all. It's like Talia Wiseau flashing us in the room. It just didn't need to be there. And even the one character just making his face like he's just staring at him the whole time. What a creeper. But anyways, Yuki has an interesting story. Like he's just vendetta against Godzilla. So I definitely like that aspect of it. The final battle, the action sequences are pretty good. A lot of Space Godzilla's abilities utilized. Mogera, I mean, I would have preferred they kept Mechagodzilla, but you know, giving Mogera another chance is fine by me. I mean, Mechagodzilla's been done in a lot of movies, and Mogera only had the Mysterians, where Mogera was like a villain. So
and he's not executed in there very well.
He's what?
He's not executed in that movie very well.
So yeah, Mogera is done pretty cool in here. It has some neat abilities, and it was cool to see him like team up with Godzilla somewhat. I think this is like the only one in the series where like Godzilla's kind of just the hero like, the whole way through. Well,
it's a little debatable because he still does go on a rampage throughout Japan, and he also has a stock footage fight with battleships from Godzilla vs. Biollante in this movie.
That's true.
But for the most part, yeah, Godzilla is pretty much he's closest to a hero that he is in this entire series in this movie, which I do like. I do like it when Godzilla teams up with humanity to defeat a monster.
Yeah, I mean, it's not quite Jet Jaguar levels, but it's still pretty fun to watch. Like I said, the beam battles, I think the final battle is really cool. And other than that, like, so Space Godzilla is awesome. I do like Mogera and Godzilla in this movie, the way they team up and fight. I thought Yuki's storyline was interesting.
Elaborate a little further. I'll be right back. I gotta use the bathroom so bad.
All right, go use that bathroom. All right, what's going on, everybody? JT's Reborn taking over for this video. But anyways, where was I? So let's go back to the pros. So Space Godzilla is awesome. I think we can agree on that. Even people who don't really necessarily like the movie can agree that Space Godzilla is pretty cool. The final battle is pretty spectacular with Godzilla and Mogera teaming up to fight Space Godzilla, because it just goes to show you how much of a badass and how powerful Space Godzilla is. And that takes up a good chunk of the movie, so that's good. And I like the character of Yuki and his storyline, his personal vendetta against Godzilla really helps separate him from a lot of other like stock characters in the Godzilla series. Like, while the others wanted to control him, Yuki was just under no circumstances. He was like, no, I'm going to kill Godzilla. He's just like, he killed my friend. So he's got that personal vendetta, and I like that aspect of it. I think it really works. And I'm trying to think of any other pros. I can't quite think of any. It does definitely come to a grinding halt when, they have that scene where Mickey is kidnapped. I'll say this about Mickey Saigusa in this movie. She actually has more of a purpose in this one than she does in the other ones.
To be a fucking Tumblr activist, yeah, that's her purpose in this movie.
She has more of a plot. She has more to do in this movie than the other ones. So she was there to help control Godzilla, which doesn't really amount to anything. She does get the warning from the cosmos about Space Godzilla, but really she didn't do much because she found out about it, didn't really tell anybody, and then Space Godzilla just ended up attacking Earth anyway. So really, she doesn't really need to be in the movie again. If Project T was like she used it to take down Space Godzilla, although she did help save some people when the Mogera was wrecked, so she did more in this movie than the other ones. I'll give her props there. And the two other dudes,
she doesn't fucking. I'm gonna save that when I get to the cons. Oh my god.
The two other dudes weren't too bad. Like I'll take them over any of the characters in Mothra vs. Godzilla any day.
That's
What
just
are we
out of
doing
default.
here?
Honestly,
What?
that's just out of default.
No, I think the one guy's fine. The other guy is like, oh, what are we doing here? Oh my
He's
god.
the worst. He's also dubbed the worst too.
He's dubbed the worst, where he's just like the first scene where he's just jamming out.
What are we doing here? Tell me.
Yeah, like
So are those your pros, cons, or both for this film?
Yeah, I've pretty much done all the pros. Like the final battle stuff is cool. It definitely goes on for a long time, which is cool. But yeah, the super atomic breath is cool, and I do love little Godzilla. I think he's adorable. But that's just
alrighty. So my pros for the film. First off, Yuki as a character, I do like him. He's probably the only human character in this movie that has actually done well. Because he has, like you said, he has a vendetta against Godzilla, and it's interesting to see like the repercussions of Godzilla's previous acts affecting somebody in the future. And I do like Yuki for that because he is a fairly interesting guy. He was best friends with Gondo, Colonel Gondo from Godzilla vs. Biollante, which took me a long time to realize that this movie and Biollante are connected, because I wasn't aware of King Ghidorah when I saw this movie as a kid. He's also dubbed fairly well too. I actually think he's probably has the best dub in this movie. He's also kind of a badass too. Like, I mean, his opening scene is when he's holding somebody, or he's holding the dumb fuck at knife point, and then you see him stab him, but it turns out he was just killing a spider, and all he says is, "It's poisonous. One bite, and you've had it." So I do like him for that. Yeah, it's not very pleasant seeing his ass. I will admit, it's not very pleasant because it's not a very nice ass.
what are you talking about? It's got a great ass. I'll freeze frame that and post it on my wall for everyone to see when they walk into my house. Hashtag Yuki's
Anyway, so Yuki is an interesting character, but his vendetta against Godzilla just being thrown out the window does kind of come out of butt the fuck nowhere at the end of the movie.
Yeah, it kind of.
So I feel like that could have been done a little better. I feel like there should have been. I mean, I think it's implied, but I think over the course of the movie, he does not really come to forgive, per se, Godzilla for killing Gondo, but he accepts his loss and sees that maybe Godzilla's like a necessary evil or some shit like that. Because obviously he saves the world from the threat of Spacegodzilla.
Mm-hmm. Why did he carry his little gun at Spacegodzilla, the blood coagulant? That
could have been done away with too. I don't think that was a pretty dumbass plot point. Why the fuck would a reptilian creature with a hide that has never been breached before ever have a weak spot in its armpit? Not to mention, what reason would a creature like him, other than lifting a monster over his head, have for raising his arms up that high to expose his armpit? Whatever. I could have done without that. Even as a kid.
Why wouldn't anybody else do the blood coagulant route?
That too, but yeah, it's actually a good point. But no, seriously, why? Just why? Even as a kid, I always thought the blood coagulant plot line was a really fucking stupid thing to do, but whatever. So Yuki is a fairly decent character. Pro number 2 is Mogera. I love Mogera, at least the Heisei version of Mogera. I love this guy. He's not quite as badass as Mechagodzilla 2, I will admit. I do think he could have been a bit better proportioned. Like, he has massive, massive fucking thunder thighs.
Pretty much all the monsters in the Heisei series have massive thunder thighs. Except Bylon, he has no thighs.
And King Ghidorah.
And King Ghidorah. You made up for that in Wingspan, though.
Yeah, that's true. But anyway, I love Mogera. I love the special effects for Mogera are great too. He still looks like he's made out of metal. He still looks like a giant robot. There's absolutely no flaws with the suit. Like there's no little spot where you can see a seam or you can see somebody's shirt or you can see a zipper or some shit. There's no flaws with the special effects whatsoever. And I'm also glad that they sort of kind of managed to, that Koichi Kawakita sort of managed to fix his issues with flying kaiju, because they're really, the Spacegodzilla is a flying kaiju, but he's a giant ball of crystal, not move around and look embarrassing. So I think his flying stuff in this movie is executed quite well, especially with the Star Falcon, because it is a jet. It's an inorganic thing, so those look fine. But I love Mogera. I love his arsenal, even though it is pretty damn derivative of Mechagodzilla 2. That would make sense because he himself is derived from Mechagodzilla 2. So it would make sense that they would use recycled parts, essentially. Though my one issue with Mogera is that there's a scene where this may sound really, really nitpicky. I probably should have mentioned this in Mechagodzilla 2. But one issue that I have with Mogera in this movie is that you never really get to see the full extent of his arsenal against Spacegodzilla. You see them by singular, or you see singular examples, like you see his I-beams, his chest laser, his auto laser once in space, his missile attacks, but you never see him go like Mechagodzilla 74 all out on Spacegodzilla, because there's a scene where they say fire all weapons, but they only fire the eye lasers and the chest beam. Why couldn't you include the auto lasers from the arms too? What the fuck? Again, that may sound really nitpicky. I don't care. But anyway, I love Mogera. I think he's a really badass robot, and if I was to have a team of robots on my side, I definitely want Mogera. Pro number 3 is what anybody says about this movie. Can't deny that Spacegodzilla is a pretty badass monster. I love Spacegodzilla. I love his design.
Fucking awesome.
Yes, I love his personality. Well, his personality is a pretty basic. He's kind of just like his stereotypical alien monster who just wants to destroy and destroy and kill and destroy and kill some more. But I like Spacegodzilla. I like his power set. I do like, you definitely can tell that this guy is supposed to be a space version of Godzilla. So I do like that there's definite similarities between the two, though obviously one is much more mutated than the other. I love his suit. The suit, Spacegodzilla can't really move around that much, can't move his arms that much because he's got massive shoulder hindrances. Can't walk around all that well.
Biceps are too big.
Or that too. I can't walk around all that well, but I love his look. I love the deep navy blue tone of his skin. That definitely does stick out in a good way. The crystals, god damn it, the crystals all over Spacegodzilla's suit all look great. There's a definite gradual tinge of reddish blue at the base of them. Then they form out the end to this really vibrant white color. Spacegodzilla's chest is like this deep purplish red. Spacegodzilla's roar, well, yes, it is pretty much Gigan's roar, but just modified. It's fitting, I suppose. I love his power set too. What is known as the Corona Beam, which is like an orange space version of Godzilla's atomic breath. I like it. It's a really good looking attack. One thing I also do like about Spacegodzilla is that he seems to be a great telekinetic fighter, because not only can he shoot green beams of energy from his shoulder crystals to lift Godzilla around and smash him all over the place, seemingly he can also control his Corona Beam at telekinetically, because there's some scenes where Space Godzilla is floating around Godzilla, and he shoots the Corona beam, and it curves and hits Godzilla, which I really do like that. Um, Definitely an attack that seems to be extremely difficult um, to avoid. So that definitely gives Space Godzilla a sense of threat, just on sheer power alone. So I like Space Godzilla. He's pretty underrated. Hope to see him in a future Godzilla movie.
Absolutely.
Pro number 4 is Godzilla's personality in this movie. I really do like Godzilla's personality in this movie. It pretty much is not as strong. It is a continuation of the previous movie where Godzilla is just a concerned parent. And obviously with that emotional connection of having little Godzilla be taken away from him and imprisoned, that, at least for me, that definitely makes me relate to Godzilla, because I feel I'd be pretty pissed off and I'd be pretty upset if my only son, the only thing that I can relate to, was taken away from me and imprisoned. So I definitely want to whoop some monster ass for that.
Absolutely.
And I also like the fact that, like I said earlier, Godzilla either consciously or semi-subconsciously teams up with the humans to defeat Space Godzilla. I really do like that. I do like seeing Godzilla team up with humans. Even if it's kind of rare, I would like to see a little more nowadays. Though it kind of seems like they're going with that in 24 in the MonsterVerse, especially when they drop it big in 2014. At least in my opinion.
The trailer's coming Saturday. Can't fucking wait.
I love Godzilla's personality in this movie. It definitely does. It's definitely a big improvement over the first 4 films. Biollante at least. And 84 and Biollante at least. Pro number 5 is the special effects for the film. This is the one that I say is the double-edged sword, because the special effects are good for the most part. The suits, for the most part, still look great. Space Godzilla suit looks great. Mogera's suit looks great. Godzilla suit, it ultimately is very similar to the suit used in the previous film. I think it is slimmed down a little bit, and Godzilla's given a bit of a longer neck. Though the suit definitely does have some flaws, which I will get into when I get to the cons. But for the most part, Godzilla's suit in this movie looks fine. The beam effects look great. The set that they use for Fukuoka Tower with all the crystal spires looks amazing. The island set that they use looks great. The special effects overall, they're pretty good. I never saw any wires, thank God. Never saw any wires. Well, actually, no, I did see one wire, or like one or two, when little Godzilla was taken into his crystal spire prison. If you look carefully, there's a pretty noticeable wire in the midst of that. I feel like they tried to hide that with mist, but mist is unpredictable.
You can see it a bit, and then you can also see his voice box.
Yeah, that too. But for the most part, the special effects are pretty solid, except for a couple issues that I'll get into momentarily. And the last pro that I have is I do enjoy the final battle. The final battle, it's pretty lengthy. It's pretty entertaining, at least in my eyes. Sorry, I gotta fix my keychain. I like that they switch back and forth between monsters, and they try to switch back and forth between beam attacks and physical attacks. Actually, I feel like they tried their best to... Nah, they don't. It's not quite as good as the previous movie, but it's still pretty damn good. Actually, I feel like the beam spamming is at its worst now that I think about it in Mothra 92, though it is still pretty heavy here. The beam spamming is very obvious, but again, I like the beam spamming. I like various energy attacks, so that's right up my alley. Moving on. So the special effects overall, they're pretty good, and the final battle is really entertaining. Though I will admit, it does drag on like a minute too long. I feel like if a minute was cut out, that would have been fine. So it does drag just slightly, but I still really enjoy the final battle. So let's get to the cons. You want to go first, Sean?
I feel like you're missing one more pro. Yuki's ass. Okay.
No.
Okay. Just so I get a rise out of you.
No.
Anyway, con number one, this movie isn't Godzilla's Revenge, so that's automatically a few points off for that, but I have to say it every time, you know I do. But, yes. So, con number one, it's not Godzilla's Revenge. But in terms of, like, more serious problems, there's some subplots that go absolutely nowhere. The Project T thing, it feels incredibly tacked on. Like, the movie comes to a full and complete halt for no reason whatsoever. It's like the one guy's like, oh, it didn't work. Now I'm just going to kidnap you, and now I'm evil. Like, where the fuck was this earlier on in the movie? Miki Saigusa, while she has a little bit more of a role, is like, in hindsight, like, she still doesn't need to be there. The Cosmos tell her about Spacegodzilla's arrival. So what does she do? She tells nobody. She doesn't give any other information other than, like, oh, you guys got to stop the space monster. Well, yeah, no shit. The thing's coming to, like, kill people. Of course they got to stop it. The blood coagulant bullet thing goes absolutely nowhere. And what I love, too, is how it's just like, oh, this will kill Godzilla. I'm like, wait a minute. If that's the case, why isn't the military manufacturing all these blood coagulant bullets to shoot at Godzilla? And it just goes fucking nowhere. Some of the effects, a little so-so. Some pacing. But, like I said, some of the other human characters are very just forgettable, just kind of there. There's plot elements that just don't go anywhere, and I'm trying to think what else off the top of my head. But yeah, I think I've said pretty much the main problems with the movie. I mean, it is a simple plot. It's just Godzilla, like Space Godzilla, weird telepathy angle into it. Pacing issues definitely drags. The music isn't up to par with some of the other Godzilla films. I don't think it's awful. Like, there's some memorable themes, and they still have some classic Akira Ifukube things in there, like the main thing when he emerges out of the water to the island for the first time. That sounds really good. But some of the other music, it's just not up to par. I read that Akira Ifukube just didn't want to be in this movie.
When he found out how really lighthearted this movie was gonna be, he turned down doing the music. He wanted nothing to do with this film,
which is unfortunate. Very unfortunate. But yeah, I think I've said pretty much all that my cons that need to be said. I'll probably think of some more when you're talking, but that's pretty much the gist of them.
Alrighty, so con number one for me is that aside from Yuki, and there's a special case that I'm saving up for toward the end of this, all the human characters in this movie suck. Aside from Yuki, all of them suck. The two bumbling idiots, as I'll refer them to, bruh, they gave me massive flashbacks to the two bumbling fucktards from King Kong vs. Godzilla.
That worked with my favorite, Mr. Taco.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up, Sean.
No. Okay, come on.
Shut the mouth immediately.
It's so cringy, but you kind of love it secretly.
But no, all the human characters in this movie suck. The two fucktards in this movie, they're annoying. They're so goddamn annoying. It doesn't help that the dub for them is pretty fucking terrible, especially the lazy fuck, whatever the hell his name is. I don't give a shit. The lazy fuck, he's dubbed horrendously. Kiyoshi Sato, whatever the fuck his name is, he's so fucking annoying. Shit, god damn it. I just clicked out of something.
Oh god, look at the comments.
Shut up. Yes, Mickey. Oh god, I'm gonna save her for a special occasion. So yeah, all the human characters suck. They're all annoying. They're all bland and boring and pointless as fuck. Again, except for Yuki. Their dialogue sucks. Their acting's pretty shitty. They just suck. Con number 2 is I think the music for this movie, with a couple exceptions, not counting Akira Fukube themes. Like I said, the music that played for Godzilla's Victory, that's a good track. Aside from that, I think all the music in this movie really fucking sucks. I don't remember the name of the guy who scored this movie, nor do I really give two shits to find out again. Excuse me.
The music is by Takayuki Hattori.
Yeah, whatever the fuck his name is. I don't like this music score. I don't think it's very good. It's very repetitive. It's very generic. Can't deny the music score is very, very generic. It's just standard monster movie music, and it's not very good for it. So I don't like the music score for this movie. I wish they could have changed this movie around a little more to make it more suitable for Akira Fukube. No Omega Picture, they aren't as bad as the people in Mothra 92, but this is probably the second worst human cast of the Heisei series. So the characters suck.
The second worst. I don't know, because it does have Yuki.
Yes, true. And, well, actually, no. The human cast, the second worst human cast is Destroya.
Yeah, I think there's really, nobody in Destroya to really get behind.
Yep.
I will say that.
Anyway, so
that movie,
music sucks, the characters suck. The pacing for this movie also kind of sucks. That's con number 3. This movie is not paced very well. It's got kind of a slow opening. Then we have a quick moment of where it's fast. That's Godzilla's first fight with Spacegodzilla. But then the movie comes to a screeching halt for that Project T subplot. And this is going to be the next con that I'll talk about in just a minute. But the pacing is really off. Goes to a screeching halt, moves at a snail's pace. Till finally Godzilla and Spacegodzilla and Moguera have their fight. Then the movie's pace salvages itself a little bit, but this movie is not paced very well at all. Especially when you, at least in my opinion, when you compare it to the perfect structure of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. This movie is not paced very well. Con number 4 is the Project T subplot. Goes nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. It brings the pace to a screeching halt. It's very uninteresting. It comes right out of butt the fuck nowhere. It feels very tacked on, as Sean said a few minutes ago. This professor of that's a colleague of Mickey. First he's fine, but then all of a sudden, right out of butt the fuck nowhere, he assists the Yakuza in capturing Mickey, and and Mickey asks him, "Why are you doing this?" And all he says is, "Power."
I want to,
really?
If you're gonna go
if you're gonna go that fucking cliche, at least give him a reason. But his reason simply is power.
Okay, if you're gonna give him a reason, either give him a reason or make him just as big a piece of shit as possible. Like I said,
or that too.
Of 80s movies, make him like a Dick Jones for RoboCop. I'm gonna use this example because RoboCop's such an incredible movie. Make him like a Dick Jones, where he just takes it to level 10 piece of shit, so out of touch with reality, such an asshole. Then I can forgive it. But no.
If you ever mention Pinky and the Brain in my presence ever again, I will kick the living shit out of you. I hate Pinky and the Brain.
Such a nice guy.
Good for you, but I hate Pinky and the Brain. Anyway, so yeah, the Project T subplot, it really is fucking stupid.
Every night, Pinky. Try and take over the world.
It bogs this movie down. It goes absolutely nowhere. It doesn't get a satisfying conclusion. It just really is fucking pointless. Con number 5 is the double-edged sword aspect. Some of the effects are pretty damn rushed. There's one infamous scene when Godzilla is diving to go back underwater, and if you watch his tail, you can see it flap off and is hanging by a thread. It's actually pretty damn noticeable once you see it. You can never unsee it. Godzilla's tail is flapping around and hanging by a thread for a good majority of this movie. And there's one infamous shot that I learned back when I was collaborating with Hidora the douchebag, is when Godzilla arises out of the ocean at Birth Island. There's a scene where you can see Godzilla's hand, and he has as Dylan quoted, a tumor finger, where he has a giant enlarged finger that's like twice the size of the standard finger. And it's really noticeable. It really sticks out like a sore thumb. Kind of pun intended, sort of, but the Godzilla suit's got some flaws in this movie. Mainly that's the aspect of the effects that come off as being rushed, is that I kind of feel like it's a Godzilla versus Gigan case where this suit was falling apart. So yeah, some of the effects do come off as being rushed. This being the 40th anniversary of Godzilla, I guess they had to have a Godzilla movie out on this year, but whatever. I still think the effects are good, but they definitely do have their flaws. And also with Space Godzilla's suit not being very maneuverable, that definitely is a problem, which kind of makes Space Godzilla feel like a bit of a stale fighter, where he's just almost exclusively a long-range combatant. I mean, he's sort of semi-capable of hand-to-hand combat, but he's definitely much more of a long-ranged beam-spamming combatant, so that feels kind of stale there, too. And finally, we come to the biggest problem herself, Miki Sagusa. Oh dear Lord, what have they done to you? To quote Andres Perez from his Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla review. Andres, if you ever see this, I hope I'm doing you proud here, man, because oh my god. Miki Sagusa in this movie is a fucking cunt. And is easily the biggest personification of why I hate Miki Sagusa. Why I hate Miki Sagusa with every fiber of my being.
Man, you stupid man. Try to kill Godzilla. Miki Sagusa in a nutshell.
Yeah,
she's pretty cute.
You stupid man, all you want to do is just destroy things. She's such a bipolar, multiple personality Tumblr activist bitch in this movie. When I watch her in this movie, especially when she's going on her rants about you shouldn't kill Godzilla, he has feelings too, and maybe Space Godzilla has feelings as well. He is like Godzilla after all. And we have to kill Space Godzilla, he'll destroy the planet. And you stupid man, all you want to do is destroy things and kill things that have feelings. Pick a fucking point, bitch, and stick with it.
Well,
because I swear to God, when she's at her worst, she is such a fucking Tumblr activist. She is a total Tumblr activist. I hate Tumblr activists. It's the reason why I hate Tumblr in general. Tumblr is fucking bullshit. It's full of nothing but just butthurt, libertarian idiots who just want to bitch and moan about this and that and that and this, up and down, left and right, down and up, right and left. Ugh.
And some of the fan stuff that they call it Tumblr is just so weird and creepy, and I'm just like, ew. Oh God. That's a rant for another day.
Miki Sagusa is fucking awful in this movie. Hi, Grimacing Gojira. I love that name.
That is a great name.
That is an awesome name. I instantly think of the meme that goes around when says, when Godzilla face palms you, you know you fucked up. So Miki Sagusa is at her absolute worst in the Heisei series in this film. She doesn't get really much better in the next movie, but that's just because she's in the next movie. In some scenes, it makes watching this movie when she's in it damn near impossible.
Mickey Sagusa, she's a cunt.
Tumblr cunt. That's what she is. So with all that said about Godzilla vs. Spacegodzilla,
so laugh over you.
this movie definitely is this movie is definitely kind of a mixed bag. It's got some good things going for it, but it's got some flaws that really do bog it down. Objectively, I definitely do have to say this is the second weakest installment of the Heisei series. But however, I still do enjoy this movie. Again, it's got its flaws, Mickey Sagusa being the worst. But I still enjoy this movie, which is why I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10. It's not horrible, but it's not amazing either. And I'm not sure if I consider this to be one of my favorite Godzilla movies anymore. Because for a long time I did. But then the movie did kind of lose some value for me. But I still do enjoy the movie nonetheless. So, Shawnee Boy, how about you?
I'm going to give it the exact same rating you just gave it. It's not up to the standards of Godzilla movies. I still like it. A 7 out of 10. That's about as high as I can go for this one.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly those points come from Spacegodzilla because Spacegodzilla is, fucking awesome. Like, he's the best thing in this movie by far. Nothing comes close to being as well. Godzilla's awesome too, and Megaira's cool, but fucking Spacegodzilla. And the minus 3 points come from Mickey's character having, like by the end of this video, I was like, yeah, Mickey's fine, but now that I think about it, like, she really does. I'm like, yeah, she has stuff she does. I'm like, actually, you know what? Oh, Sean, what do you give Godzilla's Revenge? Oh, 10 out of 10, 5 stars. Greatest film in the Godzilla franchise by far, without a doubt.
Why?
Close in quality. The moral lessons we learn, the emotions between Ichiro and Minoa, the beautiful lines of dialogue. Godzilla says I have to learn to fight my own battles. Oh yeah. But yes, so Omega 10 out of 10 for that movie. I mean, this one it doesn't quite match up in quality to Godzilla's Revenge, and that's very unfortunate. But yeah, Godzilla's cool. The battles are amazing. I can't even keep a straight face because you're flipping me off the whole way through. No, please, no, not him. Gravity Gojira, Manila he's so great. I mean, it's impossible not to love him. He can grow and shrink in size. He looks like a deformed child, but like he looks like Jason Voorhees if he were a kaiju. He's great. That sounds like Ed and Goofy and Patrick Star. Yeah, I mean, I do get, I can impersonate Patrick Star pretty good. Oh, this is Patrick. So, sorry, I'm reading the comments. He's like, Barney did too much crack. You gotta read these comments. These are great. These are fucking great. But yeah, 7 out of 10 is about as far as I can get it. Why are you stroking your machete?
I'm just coming up with ideas. If you don't move on from your fucking revenge conversation.
Move on to explain why it's the greatest film in the Godzilla series. I'm gonna make a video on that. I'm gonna put together a video why Godzilla's Revenge is the greatest Godzilla film ever made, and all your opinions are wrong. I think that would get a ton of views. But anyways, back to the movie at hand. So Godzilla vs. Spacegodzilla got some cool stuff in it. Definitely has some plot points that go nowhere. I did like Yuki's character, although you do see him kind of progress a bit, but it just feels kind of sudden at the end where he's just like pulled out the rocket launcher. He's just like, come on, Godzilla, don't give up now. But then he kind of realized that Spacegodzilla was the greater of the two evils, and so on and so forth. I feel like I've said enough on the movie. But yeah, what are your final thoughts? Just the same?
Already gave them. 7 out of 10. It's got its flaws, but I don't think it's as bad as everyone says it is. So post your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Share this video with your friends. Quick announcement before I exit. This will be the last video for the next few days. I will be gone working for most of tomorrow and all of Saturday, so there's not going to be any videos tomorrow or Saturday. I'm not so sure about Sunday. And I'm not. Jack is attending some kind of con this weekend, so I'm not sure what his schedule is. So there's not really going to be any videos till at least Monday, because I have him along for Godzilla vs. Destroya. Which, speaking of which, that being said, Sean, do you have anything to pimp out?
Yeah, on my channel, I got some videos coming along. I was working on my Halloween video, but this weekend is Comic-Con. So if you want to check out my channel, there's going to be a lot of Comic-Con coverage. I have to make some videos on the Godzilla stuff that was released the other day, but I haven't had a chance to, as well as like some stuff on Titans and stuff. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of Comic-Con coverage on my channel this weekend, including stuff about Godzilla King of the Monsters. That trailer is coming Saturday. I mean, they haven't announced it, but the trailer's been rated. It's ready to go. We're getting a trailer for Godzilla King of the Monsters, and I'm going to nod about 11 times after watching it. And yeah, I think that's all the stuff. I know you're also up to Nick's channel, but check out some of his other videos. And I'll be back for, which one is it, the Heisei rankings?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll be back for the Heisei rankings, and then there's like 2 more Godzilla reviews after that. So, unless he goes and watches the anime, but, yep.
Alrighty, so look forward to next time as I tackle the grand finale of the Heisei series, though not in my definition because there's still G98. The grand disappointing and frustrating finale to the Heisei series, along with Jack Buchanan, Godzilla vs. Destroya. And as always, go out and have your son kidnapped by a giant space clone of yourself, and then go out and kill said space clone of yourself to save your son. And I will see you guys in the next video.
Sayonara.